I'm Brigham Larson with Brigham Larson Pianos. This piano is a Kawai. I've worked on many Kawais over the years. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints buys these pianos from Kawai. They get a super sweet deal, and so they're in meeting houses all over. And for about 12 years, I did all of the meeting houses in East Provo. And it was like 120 pianos, something like that. Many of which, not all of which were Kawai, but many of which were Kawai. And so I just kind of learned to really understand, know Kawai fairly well, at least Kawais from that period. And just kind of, I guess you could say, earned a healthy respect for Kawai. They're good. They're really good, solid. I would say workhorse kind of pianos, which would make it perfect for an institutional kind of setting like a church, where you have lots of children. And that actually reminds me of there was one piano that was in an LDS meeting house where some kids had opened it up. This wasn't in one of mine that I serviced, but one of my colleagues, one of my friends, technician. He said that some kids opened up the piano and they like tore out hammers and like threw them on the floor, and or maybe it was one very disturbed child, and it just like kind of broke my heart. Because that piano, I wouldn't say that it was totaled, but it needed a lot of work from his description. Anyway, LDS meeting house, get all sorts of craziness. So anyway, this particular piano is 48 inches, which is where I draw the line of where a really good piano begins. So like this one, for example, this one right next to it, this little 1996 Pearl River, 43 inches. It's not a bad piano, and I would definitely take this one over a digital piano without question. But that said, 48 inches, where you have a little bit bigger soundboard and longer strings, all of that, it really does make a massive difference. Sometimes I'll mention that to people that aren't musicians, and they'll be like, "Oh no, I can't hear the difference." But then I'll play the two pianos, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I can. I definitely can hear the difference." Even people that claim to be tone deaf or whatever, it's a pretty obvious difference. So if maybe you don't have the space or the budget for a grand piano, I would definitely at least do your best to start at 48 inches for an upright. So this particular piano has been very thoroughly refurbished. It was originally in 1995, which is not terribly old for pianos. They last forever, but even though they last forever, they really only have about 20 to 25 years of really good use, after which they need to be refurbished. If it's a setting of heavy use, 20 years is even pushing it. I've seen some pianos like in practice rooms of, again, institutional kinds of settings that are only 10 years old, and they're just beat to death. I'm thinking schools a lot of times, or local school that I've done for years, Orem High. They've got some practice rooms they have some new pianos in there, or they're not so new anymore, but a few years old, and they just absolutely get beat to death. So they really need a refurbishing much sooner than that kind of rule of thumb that I talk about of 20 to 25 years. But that said, that doesn't really apply to this piano anyway. It was actually in pretty good shape when we got it, but even so, we go through and reshape the hammers, align everything, lubricate everything, tighten everything, ensure that everything is properly regulated. That's the fun part, seeing the touch come back to just exactly how it's supposed to be. There's a very broad range of what will function, and by function I mean you play a key, you play a note, and you get a sound, but there's a very narrow range of what is really functioning correctly, and so regulation takes care of that, brings the piano into proper function in the way it feels, which is a big deal for new piano players because they need to learn what it's supposed to feel like, and seasoned piano players because it'll just drive them crazy if it's not properly regulated. So let's listen to this one. Really nice piano. It has good projection, and it has a very kind of bright poppy tone, but definitely not crossing the line into like a overly bright or piercing tone. It's just a very pleasing, pleasing bright tone. That's a good way to put it. If you're out of state, we can ship these. We've shipped these pianos all over the country, and it's actually a pretty easy process. So this one would be a great candidate, pretty safe bet with a 1995 Kawai like this one. Come check it out if you're local. The address here is 1497 South State Street in Orem. Thanks for watching.